Hi, this is Doc Holliday, and we're here in the A.R.M.S Recording Multiplex Studios. Today, we're going to talk about how to mix for mastering. There's a lot of different factors involved. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of old sayings. One, we'll fix it in the mix. Two, garbage in, garbage out. And three, an inexperienced engineer, when he's trying to get the sound that you want by EQing, what he generally do is boost the EQ. An experienced engineer, what he generally does is cut the EQ to get the sound that he wants. With that said, some of my methods I use are the same old analog methods that I've been using for years. And basically what I try to do is keep in mind I started out on 4-track reel-to-reels, 8-track, 16-track, and 24-track, mixed to 2-track reel-to-reels. And those were for being used, those songs were being used on vinyl records and cassette tapes, which they have a certain amount of headroom and a certain frequency response you have to be within. And that taught me to keep things in order and keep things under control, so that now in the digital age, even though we are mixing to so many different, you're using so many different mediums to listen to music on these days, there's a lot more headroom, there's a lot more volume. But what we have to keep in mind now that we master everything after it's mixed, you have to leave that headroom and some room for the mastering engineer to work. Because where I was taught back in the day, everybody listens to music their own way. You have some people with a bass and treble knob, some people with EQ, and when they put a record on or a CD on, a cassette on back in the day, they're going to listen to everything the same way. So yours have to be mixed right, and if you put too much highs in it or too much lows in it, they have to have some room to add some highs or lows or mids or whatever they like to add in order for them to listen to it. So with that said, keeping those same rules when you're mixing for vinyl and cassette tapes will work very well mixing for the mastering engineer, because he's going to add EQ and compression and limiters and different sound enhancers. That's going to add gain, and he's going to boost or cut or whatever he wants to do, whatever he feels necessary to get the proper sound that he wants. And a lot of times I receive songs where it's too loud, and sometimes they take those songs and fix them. You can take the song and put it back to where it should be or close to where it should be, and then do your job as a mastering engineer. In some instances you can't do anything with it, you have to send it back and you have it remastered, remixed. And if I have to reject it and I can't work with it, what I generally do is talk to the engineer that mix it, talk about his techniques that he use, and then give him some advice and tell him a few things he might be able to try. One of the biggest problems I found out that people do is try to get everything as loud as possible. Earlier I talked about fixing the mix. I talked about garbage in, garbage out. A lot of times producers, when they're producing a record, they have everything loud, like the 8 outputs of the MPC as loud as they can get it. The keyboards as loud as they can get it. If they're doing their work within a DAW, like software sense or whatever, everything is as loud as they can get it. Then when the mix engineer get to it, everything's as loud as he can get it. And then at the final end of it, the mix bus, the stereo mix bus, a lot of people are putting compressors and limiters and EQs trying to boost the sound, and they try to make it as loud as possible. And then they figure they give it to the mastering engineer, and he's going to make it even louder. They can have the loudest record on the planet. It doesn't work that way. It's the mastering engineer's job to master the song, get all the frequencies right, polish everything up if it's needed, whatever he sees fit. Then it's his final decision on how loud it's going to be. When he's dealing with the analog mastering rig, he's going to make some decisions on what EQs, what compressors he's going to use. And it can be stuff processed in parallel, some things processed in series, some things stacked on top of each other. And then he's going to have a brick wall limiter at the end. And analog limiters only go so far. So you're going to push it to a certain level. You got to keep in mind the sound and the dynamics. And then you can start working with this digital rig and whatever type of digital mastering software he uses and the plugins he chooses and EQs or whatever, that's gonna make he can make his final decisions, and he's gonna have to put a limiter on at the end of it, at the end of that chain, and make it as loud as you think it should be. So if you make everything loud on every single track, then everything buzzing real loud and it's peaking in the red on your master bus, and then you put limiters on the compressors on to control it, when it's all said and done, he's not going to have any headroom to work with. So we got to back off a little bit and tone things down a little bit. And when I was talking about fixing in the mix, a lot of times if a guy's recording a bass or guitar or something, you have to make sure that when you play that back off that tape or off that DAW, how does it sound? Does it sound good? Is that how you want it to sound? Don't just slap something up there and then pass it on to the mix engineer. He can probably fix it and make it sound good, but sometimes I've seen guys use 3 or 4 reverbs or a couple of compressors to get the sound right on piano sounds or whatever. And when you do that, he's wasting a lot of time trying to fix the other guy's mistake. But if the song is 4 or 5 minutes, just re-record that one track. It takes you a few more minutes to do that, and then you got it right. Because we have so many different preamps, so many different compressors, and I see where some guys have certain setups where the settings on their compressors, the settings on their preamps, they use certain things for guitar, certain things for bass, certain things for strings or pianos, which work out pretty well sometimes. But if for that particular instance it doesn't work, redo it and audition another compressor or another preamp to get that bass to sound right, or get those strings to sound right, the piano sound to sound right. And with that said, you're not passing it on to the mix engineer. And the mix engineer, when he's doing something, you got to make sure, like what I did when I was doing analog, what I learned from doing analog is bring the volumes down, balance everything out, pan things to left and right, make those proper decisions. Everything don't have to be straight up the middle, everything don't have to be as loud as possible. When you preserve the dynamics, you preserving the life of the song, and you make it as music as possible. And if the mix engineer does his job right and control everything and stay within those boundaries and leave plenty of headroom for the mastering engineer, you should have a great product. And with that said, my name is Doc Holliday. Leave some comments below if you like, and subscribe, and look forward to new and other videos on different subjects, and I'm going to touch back on this subject as well. For right now, goodbye, and thank you for your time.